Hello, everyone. My name is Hector Rodriguez, and today I have the pleasure I'm presenting on the Innovating Trauma-Informed Training, the implementation and evaluation of Hip Hop Heals or H3 model for youth serving professionals. For those that are unaware, H3 was developed by a university-based research center that integrates trauma training informed best practices with key elements of hip hop culture to train various types of youth service providers on manualized evidence-based violence prevention and interventions efforts. For the purposes of this study, what I did is I took a look at 60 community-based providers who completed a manualized training on evidence-based treatments for trauma-exposed youth and families. And after they completed their surveys, what I did is I took a look at their individual action plans or IPs for applying the training's best practices. Now, H3 is broken down to five different best practices, with the first one being knowing the signs and being supportive, where the individual is supposed to seek support. So here, the participants did emphasize the importance of being emotionally present, listening without judgment, creating safe spaces for victims to share their experiences. Um, they also mention, many providers describe the need to actively guide victims to support services, helping them navigate systems, and also reducing fear or hesitation. For best practice two, this is a little bit more focused on the relationship level or developing a sense of trust. Here, the service provider is tasked with developing safe, stable, and nurturing relationships between children and their parents and caregivers. So the two themes that did kind of align with this one were mentoring and role modeling, where the participants did highlight the value of mentoring as a relational tool, offering guidance and sharing personal experiences, and also modeling healthy behaviors to foster that trust and growth between their relationships. They also wanted to improve the communication between parents and children in order to develop those nurturing relationships and build that trust and strong relationships within the family structure. For best practice three, this is focused on the individual with creating or increasing a sense of mastery. So the service provider here is tasked with developing those life skills in children and adolescents. Here, after they did receive the H3 training, the two themes that did emerge from the thematic analysis were developing those life skills through development or direct instruction. So the participants described structured approaches to teaching youth essential life skills such as job readiness, financial literacy, and also coping strategies. But they also really wanted to engage with the youth through their own interests, hobbies, and culture. And so, for example, some sports, arts, and also spoken word were listed as activities to foster that self-expression and skill building. Um, I am someone that also uses the elements of H3 in my own clinical practice. I work at a therapeutic day school in the suburbs, and it's pretty remarkable because it feels like best practice 3 is very powerful for the population that I'm serving. So if you're not able to align with their own culture, their own interests, or even hobbies, you're not as connected with them. So it's always great to being able to integrate those hip hop elements into my own clinical practice to really foster those individual skills in my clients. But for best practice four, this does focus a little bit more on the community level, where the service provider was trained in promoting a safe environment in the community in order for their populations to feel safe. So the participants here did emphasize the importance of establishing those trusted physical spaces where young people feel protected and also welcomed. And so some of the examples that were listed here by the 60 participants were churches, youth centers, and also sports programs. But they also really wanted to focus more on increasing those prevention and awareness efforts through community action. And so they focus on increasing community level safety through awareness campaigns, prevention groups, and also neighborhood involvement in order to deter that violence and also empower the residents within the community. Kind of similarly, so best practice five does focus more on changing the message on the societal level. So here, the participants were trained in helping change the rules and expectations in society or the cultural norms that do support violence. And so after the training, we noticed that the participants did say that they wanted to emphasize a little bit more of increasing the open and also implementing reflective conversations with youth and families to examine the roots of violence and also shift those harmful norms. And then we also noticed that they wanted to model positive behavior and conflict resolution, where many highlighted leading by example and also teaching youth alternatives to violence through conflict resolution and also emotion regulation strategies. We also took a look at some of the participants' follow-up 6 months after receiving the training. And so we noticed that they were able to apply the trauma-informed principles they received in their training, such as emotional safety, skill building, and also relational care into their direct work with youth. However, there was some role misalignment in some participants where they reported that some of the aspects of the training were not as aligned with their job roles or responsibilities, limiting the relevance or the applicability of the H3 trainings. Still, as a result of this study, taking a look at the responses and also experiences of 60 community-based providers, we did notice that they were able to apply the best practices by building trusting relationships, addressing youth challenges with targeted support, and also creating a safe space, leading to increased youth engagement, also increasing a stronger sense of personal safety, and having a positive shift in the narrative around community violence. But yeah, so this was my presentation. Hopefully you guys learned a little bit about what H3 is, what it kind of looks like in practice, and how it has sort of impacted the work of community-based providers. But as always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And yeah, I hope you enjoy. Thank you so much.